Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to my YouTube channel, Buddhist Biohacker. And I am your host and mystic guide, Lisa Gunshore. And I am here with the incredible Julie Hoyle, which I'm so happy to see you, Julie. I love doing these shows with you so much.
Thank you. This is great. I mean, you know how I am. I love being here. Thank you, Lisa.
Well, I want to share with everybody, and I see a lot of you joining in already. So welcome in. Please share where you're from, how you're feeling. For those of you who celebrated Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. Obviously, comments, questions, always welcome here on the live. So Julie and I came together today to talk about the fifth world prophecy and the Blue Star Comet. And this was sparked because the 3i Atlas is moving through the skies, through space. And there's been a lot of conversation on Instagram and TikTok with the Native American communities talking about this 3i Atlas possibly being this Blue Star Comet and being the fulfillment of this prophecy. And good morning, Rick. Hi from Washington State. I'm so happy to have you here. Happy early birthday. I know Rick's birthday is coming up. And welcome in. And so I want to start out, we wanted to talk about this because Julie had a really profound experience that I'm really excited for her to share. But I want to just frame this first and give you a respectful overview of what the Hopi Blue Star Kachina prophecy is, because that's going to frame a lot of what we're talking about today in this episode. So the Hopi are one of the oldest living indigenous cultures in North America, and they have these teachings about multiple world ages. So there's a first age, a second, a third, and the world we're in now is the fourth world. And the Hopi are talking about a transition to the fifth world, essentially. So the Blue Star Kachina is this. So this is what the actual words are. You will hear of the dwelling place in the heavens above the earth that shall fall with a great crash. It will appear as a blue star. Very soon after this, the ceremonies of my people will cease. And the dwelling place is interpreted as a man-made object or a celestial visitor that looks blue or emits a blue light. So it's a spiritual signal, a reminder that we are crossing a threshold into the fifth world. And the fifth world, according to the Hopi, is not a geographical place. It's a state of collective consciousness. So it's making a shift toward living in harmony with the earth, community instead of hierarchy, compassion instead of dominance, and embodied spiritual awareness. So recently, Comet 3i Atlas has been photographed with a blue hue. It's captured attention. And so this 3i Atlas could be symbolizing a shift in our collective psyche. So I'll just kind of leave it with that for right now and hand it over to you, Julie, and wherever we want to go from here. But I'd love for you to share your story also, because it's so, every time I hear it, I get goosebumps everywhere. So.
Yeah, me too. So just for context, for those who don't know my story, I had a radical, really, really radical, unexpected spiritual awakening decades ago. In fact, in 1989, so you know, do the math. And from that point on, I began having the most incredibly profound initiations from great beings who were, you know, master yogis, master shamans, great beings from all paths, faiths, and traditions, including the Sufi path, the Buddhist path, and so on. And that went on for a long period of time. And I knew that it was speaking to the work that I was going to be called to do, even though I didn't know what that would look like then. But it became increasingly clear that something was happening and I was kind of being prepared for something. So all of that said, I think it was around 1999, maybe 2000, So again, do the math, that's a long time ago. I had a lucid dream where I found myself in a kind of a wooded area, and I was with a group of master shamans from the Native American tradition. Their energy was absolutely profound. Even though they didn't speak, they welcomed me. But I knew it was an incredible honor, and I knew that something was going to happen. There were about 5 or 6 of these Native American shamans, and there was an obvious leader, and he welcomed me, and then he led me to a kind of secluded, more wooded area. And then he and these other shamans laid me down, and they tied my wrists. They laid me on my back, and they tied my wrists and my feet with twine to these thick kind of posts. And then they kind of marked up my face, and then they started drumming and waving feathers and chanting, and then stamping and chanting and singing around my body. They also lit a fire, and the energy of this ceremony was just so incredible and so intense. I started to feel, a little kind of anxious and a little afraid. But I also trusted the process, and I trusted these great beings. And I knew they were Hopi shamans. And even though I have to say, I never studied anything, I knew nothing about the Hopi tradition at all. This was all completely new to me, but an intuitive message told me, these are Hopi shamans, and they are here to gift me with something. I didn't know what that something was, but they were, chanting and following this ritual. And then the head shaman took rattles and feathers, and then he stood on my chest and he started stamping with his right foot. He stamped 3 times. And then the force of the final kind of stamp cracked open my rib cage. And then he put his foot into my rib cage, and with his foot, he grabbed hold of my heart and he started squeezing. Now, if any of you have ever had a lucid dream, you know that you're awake in the dream, and what happens is, any feeling, any emotion that comes up, any quality of pain is really magnified. So because of that, the pain was incredibly intense, but it also felt in a strange way really good. So he was squeezing, and as he was squeezing, he said out loud, "I'm turning the heart in accordance with the Blue Star prophecy." And then he took my heart and he turned it, and then he turned it back again. And then he, chanted a few more chants. I don't even know what he was saying. And then he stood off my chest. And I cannot tell you, the feeling was extraordinary. It was the most amazing kind of transference or transmission of energy. And it felt really profound. And I felt my entire being just expand. And I felt that what he was gifting me with was going to unfold in its own way in time, through time, even though I didn't know what that looked like. Anyway, after that ceremony, my sternum came together, my heart settled back into its rhythm. They undid the twine, and then they, all gathered round. They each embraced me. And then I felt myself being pulled back to waking. And when I woke up, I could not move. I seem to remember I lay there for probably close to an hour because the energy was so incredible. I just was kind of bathing in it. And then when I came out of that finally, I started to do the research around, what the Hopi prophecy was, because like I said, I'd never heard of it. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is going to be a future event. And what's happening now is we're all being prepared for that. And in our own way, we're being called into action in alignment with what is coming, which is a new world, a new way of being, living from the truth of who we are, having the courage to express what we know to be true rather than swallowing it down and hiding and dismissing and, living in this state of fear. So, and of course, all of that, everything they said in terms of that sort of ritual has manifested in my life. And I know it's manifesting in the lives of those people that I work with. And I know it's true with you as well, Lisa. Between, I would say, the end of the 90s and then coming forward to now, there's been incredible shifts. And this is just the beginning. We're going to see even more. So, yeah, so that's a story. And even though, it's a story, it's not a story. Those of us who've woken up to the truth of who we are know that, the waking state is not it. It's not the only it, let's say. These dreams that we have, these connections with source, these abilities to move through time and space, it's all our natural state of being. And we're coming to recognize that.
I just want to give space to the story because it's so good and the energy is so palpable, even when you share it now. And I've heard you share it a few times. There's so much that you're touching on that I want to talk about. I know we're here to talk about the Blue Star and what that might mean, but Julie, I've been reflecting and thinking about this show. I've been reflecting a lot on what we've been through since we've known each other and the prophecies that have come forward during that time. We met 2006-ish, I think. And, that was 20 years ago soon. And 20 years I've been in the world of the metaphysical communities and all of those things. And of course, that was prior to the 2012 Mayan calendar prophecy, right? So 2012, and there was a lot of discussion about, the end of the Mayan calendar and what was going to happen in 2012. And, here we are now with this 3-eye atlas coming through and all these questions about what that is. And talking about the Blue Star prophecy. And those are just two prophecies of many that have been discussed over the last 20 years. And I think one of the things that I've been reflecting on is, these prophecies come and go. And there is rapid change during those periods that, while it feels subtle, when you look back, it's not subtle. And to your point, when we first met, it was still not really something to talk about, our gifts. And I was nervous to say I was a tarot reader, let alone say I was a psychic. And as time went on, it became okay to say it. And now I think I've moved past saying that into just the space of being. And so I'm curious, as you look back, Julie, what are your thoughts about all of these prophecies? Because we've seen so much change. Even with AI and social media, 20 years ago, I didn't have a social media account. We didn't share the way that we do. Mm-hmm. And now almost every single post has some kind of debunking comment, or if you're on Twitter, people use Grok, but there's so much that's not real. And then there's these profound experiences that can be real in the dream state. And so I'm just noticing this. I think I'm just noticing all of this, what's real, what's not, what is our truth with a capital T? How do we step into that space? And so I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I've just been reflecting on it. There's been a lot of prophecies and shifts. And then we talk about this prophecy today going into this fifth world, and people have talked about 5D versus 4D and all that business. So I'm just, where are we headed? I wonder.
Yes. Well, look, I think the point with prophecies is they're pointers to the truth of who we are. And the thing is that we're all tasked, no matter what our orientation, whether we're coming from a Catholic or a Buddhist or a yogic kind of background or position, let's say. The point is to discover who you are prior to the story, because it's that which never changes. Of course, everything in the world changes, everything, even our moods, our emotions, our feelings, our belief systems, our conditioning, every single thing is subject to change. And what we're tasked with through connecting with these touchstones, these prophecies and these messages that we receive, what we're tasked with is discovering who we are prior to the story and prior to any movement or change, because that one thing never changes. It's never affected in any way. And we can call it what we want. We can call it source. We can call it the higher self. We can call it absolute awareness itself. It doesn't matter what title or word we give to that, but it's that we're being invited to discover through, whatever path or whatever means we resonate with, to discover the stillness and the silence and the profundity of what is always here and has always been here and will always be here, no matter what's going on. And the thing is that what I've seen with respect to the people that I've been working with over the last, I don't know how many years, is that there's a reluctance to share, as you rightly mentioned, because of fear of being criticized or condemned or, thrown out of the community, and all of those things. And obviously, historically, we understand why that's happened, because the witch wound is very, very prevalent, especially in women. So there's often been a reserve around, standing up and revealing who you are and sharing your truth. But we're entering a period of reclamation in which we are really deeply being called to honor our own pure seeing and knowing and to live from that place. Because until we do, we'll never be happy. We'll always be looking for something to make us feel better.
I love when we get together, because just talking with you, like the energy, I start to feel and see things and understand things differently. So I just love that. And what you're saying right now is putting into context too, I think, what I'm trying to say, which is prior to AI and social media, especially AI, there needed to be some kind of illusion breaker, this shattering of something, and for a lot of people, it was a death or a divorce, right? Something that shatters the illusion, where you realize that not everything is as it seems. And I think what I'm seeing and noticing with all of these, is this video real? Is it not real? Questions, is there's a ramping up of the illusion and the shattering of the illusion, where everyone is questioning reality. And it's such an invitation to do exactly what you're saying, Julie, which is to see beyond all of these narratives and all of these stories. And for everyone who's watching YouTube videos and on X and on Instagram and all these things, and you're wondering what's real, what really happened, I love conspiracy theories, partially because I'm a Scorpio, but partially because it does make it invites you to critically think about what is happening. And when you do that, you start to critically think about your life. And so it appears, Julie, that the opportunities to awaken have expanded exponentially. That's what I think I'm trying to say. We suddenly have an opportunity every time we open up our social media accounts to awaken to the truth of who we are. It doesn't require some kind of earth-shattering event. And I think that links back to this whole idea of the fifth world, right? The fifth world is about simplicity and community. And that comes from being bombarded with all of this excess and recognizing that I'd rather sit and look at my backyard and the bunnies and the birds and the trees and the squirrels and the mice, because that's real, that simplicity. And that, to me, is what the fifth world is all about. It's about coming into that space where you're in community with your environment rather than in trying to be in all these other communities.
Yes. Look, and the point as well is, as we all know, it doesn't require a lot of effort to resonate with truth. I mean, as a simple example, you go onto social media, whether it's Instagram, Threads, wherever it is. If you see a post that has got lots of bullet points, green ticks and whatever, you don't even need to read. You can just feel it's just AI generated, and I'm not dead against AI. It has its uses, right? But the point is when someone speaks from the heart, even if it's not that eloquent, there's a transmission of energy that we resonate with, and we can feel it.
Yeah.
Whereas with AI, it doesn't have any depth, and it really doesn't kind of point to what is authentic within our being. And so it's much better, I think, which is what I do. I minimize my time on social media. And I can tell immediately if someone is speaking from truth and if they're not. And if they're not, then good luck to them. It's great. Go your merry way. But, there's no value in it at all. And like you said, coming back to simplicity, being in your own life rather than looking for distractions. So, if you're in a relationship that isn't sitting well and it doesn't feel kind of resonant, and you can feel that, it really isn't healthy, then that's an invitation for you to look at what's going on and to work with it energetically. And or a job situation, if you're in a job that you hate, what can often happen is we can fool ourselves into thinking that we can work with something and then kind of fill our lives with lots of distractions so that we really don't have to deal with what's right under our nose. And so the call to action, from this point onwards, which is what the Blue Star Prophecy is speaking to, is about being in your own life and engaging with it in a way that is authentic and it's truthful and it's simple and it's honest. Rather than just kind of looking all the time for, questions or answers outside of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think all of these, all of these conspiracy theories and narratives and things that are out there are really an invitation to trust your own intuition. And I think that's something that I feel very passionate about right now. Is there's a lot of questions. Everybody's questioning. We want the truth of this and that and the other thing. And I think you have the truth inside of yourself. And I think there's a lot of truth mixed with untruth in order to confuse. And I think that's why it's so important to trust your intuition, recognize your gifts, understand that you do know that there is something not true, and leave it at that. I think that's the thing, is that's where your energy starts to leak out, is when you start to try to figure it out. And that's sometimes the intention of those stories. So I think it's really important for everyone, as we shift into, these new states of consciousness, is to recognize and acknowledge very simply, I understand that this is not the whole truth, and that's enough for me. And keep your energy contained and focused on what you're here to do and working on yourself. I think that's the key thing here, isn't to unravel the truth, but instead to understand that not everything is true and it's okay. And you can trust in that in yourself. We've been taught not to trust ourselves. Like you said, Julie, even when we want to say what we think is the truth, we're afraid to do it because of all of the things that have happened to people who have said the truth over the years. And I think it's just acknowledging it within yourself so that your energy stays focused on your creative projects, because we cannot achieve our legacy and write and paint and do all the things we want to do. I hear so often from my clients that they have all these ideas, all these things they want to accomplish. And the way that you accomplish that is to put those other things all those distractions out of your mind and stay focused. And I think that's part of what this Blue Star prophecy is about the simplicity of trusting yourself and focusing on what you feel called to do and not allowing these other distractions to pull you from that.
Yes, absolutely. And the point is that you have to start with yourself. You have to listen to and acknowledge what feels right for you, and by extension, what does not feel right for you. And the point is, if it's your dharma or your duty to somehow engage with unraveling some of the conspiracies or whatever, it'll become clear to you. Mm-hmm. You'll be shown, you'll be given a push or a prompt to get involved. Mm-hmm. And if that isn't coming up, if instead you're prompted or inspired to write a book or to create a painting or to help at the local community college or whatever that looks like, then that is yours to do, rather than denying or dismissing or turning away from that and getting involved with, let's say, conspiracies or whatever is happening on social media and getting stuck in there and then not doing anything and then not utilizing your own creative energy and not being on purpose and then not living a life that feels fulfilled. And again, as you and I know, with working with clients, there are so many people who start, let's say, a website or a book or a project and never finish it for those reasons. They get distracted. They tell themselves no one will be interested in what they have to say. And they just get into this self-defeating mode and never complete what their heart and soul is really calling them to step into and to stand behind. And yeah. It's common. It's a common problem.
Yeah, it really is. And I'd like to shift gears a little bit into the lucid dreaming, because that was something else I wanted to talk about. And Rick has a question that I think will go in line with this. But as you know, Julie, my husband and I attended a retreat with Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, who's known as the Dream Lama. I mean, he's the Dream Lama. That's who he is, a few months ago. And he really spent 3 full days telling everyone to go to sleep. I mean, that was really what he did. I took it very seriously. And while I've always had lucid dreams and I love my dream state and I love to go to sleep as well, I have slept more since that retreat and dreamt more than I have in years. I mean, it's just been amazing. And I think his point was, if you don't sleep, you don't dream. And if you don't dream, you will not be prepared for death. That really was his message. And his message was, time is running out for a lot of us. And we're not ready. We're not packed up. We're not ready to go. And, we're paying he even said, we're paying all these therapists. But really, we just need to dream, because that's the best therapy that we can have. And so for you and I who have a lot of lucid dreams, I mean, it's my favorite part of my day. It's my lucid dream state, honestly. And so I want to reiterate his teachings. I want to reiterate how important it is to sleep and dream and understand your dreams and understand what you're working through in your dreams and being able to clear that energy. And so that being said, Rick is asking, what was the purpose of the intense pain in your lucid dream? That's his question.
The purpose of the intense pain. Well, I get what my intuitive read on that is, that it was pointing to the pain we can feel when we follow our heart and when we listen to what we're being guided to do, because it's not always comfortable. Lisa and I both know it can be really challenging, because a lot of fear can come up for obvious reasons, again, because of the way one's intuitive knowing isn't recognized, because the intellect has been put on a pedestal, and again, our intuition has been kind of subverted and repressed. And so that I believe is what, is being felt, that, the pain, and not just for me, not on a personal level, but, globally, for most people, it's very difficult to listen to and follow their heart. It's far easier to defer those intuitive messages or to ask 20 people what they think and then just do nothing about it. And, again, I've seen that played out with the clients that I work with, or they'll tell themselves, I don't have time, or who am I to do this or say this? There are 10 other books, for example, on awakening. Why would anybody read my book? So it's really, really easy to turn away from what your heart and your soul is pointing you to, from fear, out of fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the message is don't be afraid. In fact, just yesterday, I started digging into some self-inquiry around some things that had been brought up over this holiday week for me. And the more questions I was asking, the more it led me down a rabbit hole to my ex-husband and my stepdaughter and some things from now 25 years ago that had occurred. And I ended up like crying in my kitchen talking to Scott about it last night. And I'm laughing because the comment that Scott and I made to each other was how many people would go until they cry and keep going randomly on, a Saturday afternoon. Only I would do that. But I share that to say to everyone out there, don't be afraid to feel that pain and to go into the heart space, because the self-reflection, how many of us do it? And I have no doubt that everyone watching this show right now and later, if you're watching the replay or listening on audio, is doing that. And it's just a reminder to keep going, like keep going. When it's painful, keep going, keep asking the questions, keep journaling, keep noticing what is coming up, because when you do that, the recapitulation starts to happen and you start to piece together things you hadn't pieced together before. And I can't say this enough, but don't wait for your life review to do it. I mean, don't wait. How many near-death experiences have we watched and listened to where they have a life review and it profoundly changes their life? You don't have to die to have a life review. You can have a life review right now, looking back across your life and going deeper into why did that happen? Why did I make that choice? What was that really about? What do I know about it now? I had some real heartbreak yesterday for some decisions I was part of that today I would never, ever have made those decisions. And I'm heartbroken that somebody I loved and cared for went through something difficult because of something I was part of deciding for them, thinking we were helping them, right? Thinking we were helping them. And so feel that pain, that heartbreak that you're talking about, Julie, and what you went through in the dream. I agree with you. I mean, I think it's painful to follow our heart, but when we grieve and we have those tears and we work through it, we come into a different space with it. And I want to be like, I have a passion to be at peace when I leave this planet and to feel complete with things. And the only way to do that is to practice self-inquiry and to start to ask really tough questions and to even ask with these dreams. I think, we have these lucid dreams, and part of the pain or you ran the whole night and you wake up and you're exhausted, right? Like all of that stuff is to remind you that those dreams are real and they're impacting your daily life in the dream state. And it's just so important to dream. I mean, it really, really is. And it's important to feel the pain, and it's important to recognize the dream in our waking life, right? That's the practice of dream yoga in the Tibetan Bone tradition is I am awake and I am dreaming, but you're saying that now. I am dreaming. This is it.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that was a practice I did for years. I think soon after this radical awakening in 1989, when I was awake, I would, as I was going through the day, have these thoughts, deliberate thoughts. this is a dream and I am dreaming, in the waking state. And then that really helped then in the dream state to wake up in a dream. So I'd been a kind of what I call a regular dream. And then that thought would arise, this is a dream and I'm dreaming. And then I would move into lucidity. So if you utilize that very simple practice in the waking state, it then reinforces the capacity to be able to wake up in the dream. And it's incredibly powerful and a very simple thing to do. And the other thing I do want to sort of just clarify with respect to the dream I had with these Hopi elders is that what I was feeling and intuiting was that, okay, it can be painful to follow your heart because of feeling like you're going against the flow of what the world or your community is wanting you to do. It might be that you're doing something, for example, that your family doesn't necessarily support or even agree with sometimes, or they look at you and think, why is she doing, who is she to be writing a book, for example. But it's far more painful not to follow your heart and soul and to repress it. And it's that the more I see, work with clients, the more I really understand that depression is really about depressing the self, depressing our call to action, depressing what our heart and soul is kind of prompting us to do. And of course, what happens is when we sort of deny and depress what our heart and soul is calling us to, we're not living. It's like dying before death, So you know what I mean? It's you're not fully engaged with your life. You're going through the motions. You're feeling like you've got no passion or purpose. Your life feels dead to you, and then you ask, what can I do? But the point is, what you are doing is turning away from what you intuitively know you're being called to. So pain has a purpose, but oftentimes we try to medicate it away, or we try to distract ourselves.
Yes. Well, and the Blue Star Kachina is about great revealing. They say it's a time when illusions collapse. And when your illusions collapse, you see that the relationships you have are out of alignment. They're out of integrity. And you see the habits that we have that numb us instead of nourishing us. The heart does not participate in illusion. And I think one of the things when I was looking at the Blue Star prophecy is it said in one of the articles I was reading that in Hopi teachings, the Blue Star Kachina signals a return to original instructions, meaning how humans were meant to live in harmony, in balance, in honesty, in respect for the earth and the spirit. And so I think that really stuck out to me, this whole idea of, going back to our original instructions, like what we here as humans, how are we meant to live? And we were meant to live in community and in nature and in balance with ourselves and each other. And Rick says, thank you. That makes sense. So thank you, Rick, for the question. It's a great question. So I think that idea of coming back into our heart and back into alignment is also back into alignment with the human experience.
Yes. And honoring our emotions, even if anger's coming up, irritation, frustration, whatever it is, rather than reaching for medication to numb it or distractions to numb it and avoid looking at what is coming up, but just to welcome whatever is there and to see what it's here to speak to.
Mm-hmm. And I think, we could do a whole show on whether or not the 3i Atlas is the prophecy, but my invitation is make it the prophecy. Like, just take this as an invitation that there is a celestial object coming down out of the sky, and it's inviting us to live in alignment. Don't worry about if it's real or not. Just worry about that. And I'll share Rob, the ET Whisperer, who's been on the show a few times. I really love him. He'll be back on next year. He's actually doing some really cool channeling events in Japan, of all things. But Rob did a great video. I invite all of you to go to his YouTube channel, the ET Whisperer, where he channeled about the 3-eye atlas. And really the message was very simple. Is it interdimensional beings? Yes. Is it an invitation to live in your truth? Yes. And that's it. That's all you need to take from it. And I think that's what I want you to take from Julie's and my conversation today too, is it is a sign. It's a sign to live in alignment, and you get signs every day reminding you to live in alignment. And you know, the practices to do that are difficult, but that's what Julie and I offer. I mean, we share so many practices, and both of us have, how many books do you have now, Julie?
I have 7. I'm soon to release my 8th. So, yeah.
And I have 6, going to release my 7th. So we have plenty of content, a massive amount of content to access. And it's not just Julie and I mean, there's Carl Jung has hundreds, books and articles, and there's the teachers that have been doing this, all of us who have been doing this for 20, 30 years or more are offering support when you say yes to the invitation. And so I think, is this the Blue Star prophecy? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. For me, it is. For me, it's a reminder of how can I become more simple? How can I live in humility? How can I come even more into balance? Which is what prompted some of my own self-inquiry yesterday is, I'm always asking what's left. And the beautiful thing about lucid dreams, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Julie, but when you give yourself space to have good sleep and go into this state where you can have dreaming, and you step into the lucid dream, you are always shown. I analyze my dreams every single morning. I love it. What happened last night? What did I work through? What's going on? Like, I love digging into that, and I'll be sharing more of that, I think, with everyone, because I'm becoming so passionate about it, of sharing it, I guess. I've always been passionate about dreams, but those are prompts to continue to unpack what you're working through. And I think that's what makes it so exciting, is it's just this really cool way to do inner work that's different from just sitting with a journal.
Yes. And the thing with a lucid dream, and most lucid dreams gift you with a message or a directive. It is so direct. The mind doesn't get in the way, because obviously to be in a lucid dream, you have to become awake in the dream, and the mind becomes really still. You're just kind of, as you know, Lisa, kind of going with the flow of it. And then when you're given a message or a pointer, it just lands, and it has so much energy. There's a transmission of energy that happens. And then when you come out of the dream, you feel really empowered to kind of carry that forward. As I've shared many, many times, the reason I started writing was because in a lucid dream, I was prompted by a master yogini, because she just put with a simple question, when are you writing the book? And again, her question had so much energy. It then kind of started this whole flow and this movement forward when I came out of the dream. And I started writing, and I had never imagined in a million years that I would be writing anything. And it's obviously not just in the lucid dream state as well. It's in the waking state, when someone says something to you that has tremendous power and resonance. It's important to realize that that is a gift, and to take that and then do something with it, rather than just say, oh, that was great, that was interesting, and then leave it alone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've been having dreams about my culinary school days and baking, and it did prompt me to start baking. And thank you to everybody, because I've had more comments and hits and shares of my baking articles than my ones asking you to do your inner work. But that came from a lucid dream. That came from a lucid dream I had recently where I was a chef, and it reminded me of how much I love baking and cooking and all of those things, and how important those are too, to nourish yourself, to really cook from the heart. And it's about simplifying and going back to basics and basic whole food ingredients and all of those things. And that came from a dream as well. And so I think our dreams are a playground if we let them. And, there have been clients over the years who have said they had scary dreams, and I'm with you. I've had those too, and, battling demons and all sorts of things. And I just have a little joke with myself, and I share it with any client who's ever come to me feeling nervous about dreaming, which is I kind of joke at night, like, I'm going in. Where am I going? I'm going in. And you just take it as that light warrior, as a spiritual warrior, you're going in. And sometimes you're called to action, and sometimes you're given information about yourself. Sometimes you have visitors from other dimensions. Sometimes you have loved ones who've passed that come. You never know what to expect, which is what makes it so magical, I think, it is truly mystical. It is the journey of the mystic to experience the dream state.
Yes. And let me just speak to the kind of the dark forces that, I've experienced as well, and they can be terrifying. But the thing that I always advise and encourage people to do when they are having one of these lucid dream experiences and a dark force or an energy is coming towards them, what you do is you say, if you are of God, you are welcome. If not, leave now. And be very forceful in the way you say that. And then you can either, if this energy is still kind of hanging around, you can then say, in the name and through the power of Jesus, or in the name and through the power of, a Rinpoche or a great being that you resonate and connect with, then I demand that you leave. You can do that as well. So there are methods that you can utilize to kind of just clear your space and get rid of any dark forces that you don't want to engage with.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder. And Denise is here. Hello. She says, hi, Julie. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Rick. Welcome in. Julie, what are your parting words of wisdom today?
I always keep it really simple. And my primary message since I started doing this work has never changed. And that is to listen to your inner guidance, trust what it's saying, and act accordingly. And that is as simple as it gets. And, it has power and authenticity. Most people have difficulty with that. But this is really what it boils down to.
Yes. And if you are ready to accept the invitation of the Blue Star Kachina and 3i Atlas, you can find Julie at juliehoyle.org. You can find her on YouTube, Instagram, Threads. Julie's everywhere. And myself as well, Buddhist Biohacker, YouTube, buddhistbiohacker.com. And we're here to support you. We've created all these tools from our own direct experience in order to support you, because we had to do a lot of research solo and figure out what was going on with us. And we're here to support you. And I want to leave you with just another piece of the Hopi Blue Star prophecy. The Blue Star Kachina doesn't tell us what to fear. It tells us where to turn. And the direction it points is always the same, back to the heart.
Wow.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. More to come in the new year. Much love and happy holidays for everybody who's celebrating holidays. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. As always, thank you, Lisa, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.